let's talk a little bit about Midday from Australia.
I love that gig. I was asked to do Castaway Correspondence, is what it was, and I was like the Gene Shalit for the Australian Channel 9, and I would be part of the foreign press. So I would go see the movies with Germany and England and Japan, no American press, and it was interesting to see the actors. I don't know if people know how that's all done, but you go into a room and you interview each actor that's in the movie. And when they saw me, first of all, I'm part of their childhood. Second thing, oh my God, she's American, so she might like the movie as opposed to the foreign press that doesn't like it. And I really had an opportunity I interviewed Mel Gibson, Nick Nolte, Julia Roberts, Jada Pinkett Smith, Burt Reynolds, Dick Donner. All the big movies that were going on at the time, and every one of them just about had a story about Gilligan's Island. Rene Russo had said to me, you're one of the reasons I became an actress. I said to my mother when I was a little girl, this is what I want to do. And Tom Hanks was so excited that he was sitting next to Mary Ann because the professor had done his bosom buddy television show. And Dick Donner, as I said to you before, had directed Gilligan's Island. And it's wonderful to see most of them grew up watching me. So, that was really kind of cool.
And yet you're still a contemporary. How do you do that?
Well, you kind of are. It's odd, isn't it? It's a funny business. I'm still alive. That's a good part. You're going to run this years later. They're going to say, no, she's not. She's been gone 20 years.
Now, I know you interviewed Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yes. Well, and that was an interesting experience, too, because I don't know the names of the movies, something like Coming to America or something like that. I interviewed him for one of the Nutty Professors. And I had never seen him do all these characters, which just blew my mind. And I said to him, Eddie, I stopped going to your movies because your language was so awful that had no point in some of the movies. But when I saw this Nutty Professor, I had no idea that you were such an accomplished actor. And when it was all over, he took a hold of my hands and he said, do you really think so? I said, my God, you're a genius. You're really a genius playing all these different people. Tears in his eyes. It's interesting to see they were little children. Oh, God, that means I'm 110 years old, doesn't it?
No, only 102.
We were in the cribs together is what it was.
So given all of these interviews, I have to ask, 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon, where do you fall?
What does that mean? I know 6 degrees from Kevin. I don't know what you mean.
How close can you get to Kevin Bacon in the fewest number of steps?
Oh, well, I met him, so that's pretty close. Yeah, I produced a film festival, and we had talked to Kevin about coming up and doing, we had Footloose, we ran Footloose once. But it is interesting, isn't it, how we all kind of circle around the same.
That makes you 1 degree.
1 degree from Kevin Bacon. He doesn't know me from Adam, but I met him. I've met him a couple times. Why Kevin Bacon is the next question.
Because the actual original expression is 6 degrees of separation.
Right, and I've seen the play
which
originally.
in Hollywood became 6 Degrees of Kevin Bacon.
Yeah, but why Kevin Bacon rather than...
Because the name rhymes.
Oh. Okay.
Why anything?
It's a good... In Hollywood, there is no why.
Talk to me a little bit about your clothing line and Wishing Wells and where that all came from.
Well, I had a grandmother that, when I was growing up, my grandmother that I told you was so artistic, suffered from a stroke and was paralyzed completely for 2 years, and my mother took care of her, and all she could do was cry. She couldn't move, she couldn't do anything, and dead weight is hard to dress. And I just got to thinking about the people in the nursing homes, now we're talking 10 or 15 years ago, didn't have anything to wear except a sweatsuit or a model's coat on backwards. And I've done a lot of costume design, and thinking, now wait a minute, you get to a quick change, everything's done with Velcro. From the front, you go to Disney World and you get a picture of yourself as a pirate, but it's all done down the back. So why can't I create something that makes you feel better about yourself, that makes you heal better, that makes you give some dignity and quality of life as you age? It's very difficult. You can raise money for children, but you can't raise money for somebody 90 years old to give them a new dress. And you know what? It's the circle of love that happens. If you're in a nursing home and you're in a bright red dress and I come in and say, Mary, what a great dress, you look so nice. It gives a feedback between the two of you. It makes you feel better about yourself. And while I was doing this, my mother had had a stroke. And the occupational therapist, one of the designs could open down the front, but it could also open down the back. It's front to back reversible. So if you were recovering from a stroke and you couldn't dress yourself, the caregiver could dress you. As you got a little better, it would open down the front. There was just no money in it. And I manufactured, had a catalog, and did fairly well. 2 or 3 problems. You get somebody in a nursing home that knows Susie, but Susie only lives a year. So then there's the next patient, and that nurse is the key that's going to give you those clients and patients. The other thing is the manufacturers wouldn't make less than 2,500 of the same color, same size. Well, that requires a tremendous amount of funding. I was in the Penny's catalog. I was in the Sears catalog. I just don't think the world is ready for it, and I think it's a real need. It's a real need, I think. I do one-to-one every once in a while, but I don't do anything with it anymore.
Do you think maybe it'll come back now that the boomers are all turning into the majority of the population?
Yeah, and and you feel better about yourself. And I tried to get the Medicare people, Medicaid, Medicare, add $20 or $40 a year to your bill and give them 2 outfits. The key is you can't get to the patient. You have to get to the caregiver. It's somebody who's working full-time. The daughter's working full-time and has 3 kids, and she doesn't have time to shop. What a nice thing it would be to know that every 3 months your mother gets a new... But there's a great deal of money and organization to putting all that together. I did fashion shows in nursing homes and stuff. My mother would go with me. She'd be so cute. She'd find somebody who didn't have anybody, no relatives, so she'd go visit them for a while. But it was a need, but it wasn't financially successful. But I think I did a good thing.
And is it true that Natalie Schaefer was involved with you?
Yeah, yes. I wish I had the picture to show you. She was in my catalog. She did my modeling for me. Yeah.
That's absolutely wonderful.
She and my mother both.
And what you talked about, you can raise money for children. Well, what is the Children's Miracle Network Telethon?
The Children's Miracle Network Telethon doesn't exist as much as it used to, but that was the Osmonds started it, and it was a wonderful organization. It still is. They don't do the number of telethons they used to do, but I did it for 15 years in Missouri. I'm a graduate of Stevens, and they called and asked me for the University Hospital. And as I said before, I wanted to be a pediatric surgeon, so to allow me to go into the hospital and do this for 15 years, I watched hernia operations, I watched hip replacement, I watched a husband and wife team take a 4-month-old baby's misformed face and cut the face and pull the face down and redo the skull and put the face back up, and she nursed with the mother 4 hours later in this perfect little face. You come away, neonatal unit where I'd sit there with those little babies that are 2 pounds. And one of the doctors, she's a really good friend of mine now, and she said, I have to send this baby home. The mother's 14. And I've had the baby in here 2.5 months, and we finally saved the baby's life. She was so premature, and I have to send it home to a child that doesn't know how to take care of it. I mean, I had a little girl who changed my life. Her name was Missy. And she had cystic fibrosis and wouldn't admit it. She said she just had asthma. And she was in and out of the hospital a lot. And she looked 14. And she had her little scooter, and she was just something, courage and guts and everything. And I finally got her to talk on the telephone. She didn't want to admit what was wrong with her. And she said, it's very important for parents to tell their children what it is. She said, I found out in PE class. They told me I had CF, and she said, no, do not. And I ran home and told my mother, and my mother told me. And she underwent a heart and lung transplant at Stanford, and I visited her every single weekend, and we lost her. But she said, I'm not going to die of cystic fibrosis, I'm not. And she changed my life. I don't have children. And Missy's in my heart. As she gave up, she went into rejection, and as she gave up, she said, I'm going to be your guardian angel. I'm going to be with you, and she is. And I sat through a mother and father who didn't speak. They were divorced when she went through the surgery. Sitting with 2 parents that didn't even talk to each other while their child's going through a heart and lung transplant. I mean, it was a real eye-opener to me about the families that cope with the illnesses and things. I mean, when you see what autism is, the number of kids coming up with autism and whatever that ADD or whatever that is, I mean, it's so much different now than when I was growing up. And families have such a difficult time. You don't realize what the whole rest of the family is going through. 4 other children and all of that all have to cope with it. I did it for 15 years, and it changed my life completely. It was very gratifying to my heart.
Now, you've clearly devoted a good part of your life to giving back, or giving in the first place even, to the elderly, to the infirm, to children. Let's talk for a minute about what you're giving to people who are coming up now, and the Actors Boot Camp and the Spud Festival and being a teacher.
Well, and it's something I really didn't want to do. I've always said, well, you either do the work or you teach the work. It's one or the other. But as I have gone on in life and been guest artist residents in a lot of the universities and everything, I have seen you just drop off the center of the earth when you get out of school. So you've majored in theater or communication, so now what? How do you get the job? How do you go to work? And I saw there was so much of that missing that I started out doing a film actors boot camp, teaching the art of acting on camera, voiceovers, commercials, agents, contracts, unions, all of that sort of stuff, up in the state of Idaho where I grew up fishing with my dad. And then I had a grant from the state of Idaho and moved into a building and started a film school. Economy is really bad right now, so it's a little difficult to find even employees. But the most gratifying to me are the kids that have come out of my school. I mean, we do a Spudfest Family Film Festival, which is all family values. As a matter of fact, I'm doing one in Reno in March. And to see these young filmmakers that haven't got a clue 10 years ago of what to do in the film business. Now you can make a movie. Now you can go to Sundance. Now you have an opportunity of getting distribution. Now there's 100 channels where you can have something. You have an opportunity of earning a living in the film business, which you didn't have before. And to see the talent, I was up in a potato growing country. Idaho potatoes are the best. And I was up in this potato growing country. Farmers didn't even know what a film festival was. Why would I go see something I don't know when Chocolate Factory's playing? And to see these kids, the light turn on and the stuff that they've created. I mean, we were the first Napoleon Dynamite. We had a movie called Blindsided that just got picked up by HBO, a Muslim boy and a white boy who've become best friends. What does religion have to do with it? I mean, these are family values and issues that parents should be discussing. Not all puritanical, so to speak, but I've made a difference, and it really has gratified me. I'm kind of now wanting to slow down a little bit. I'm aware that I've lost my mom, and I was taking care of an ex-husband with leukemia, who I've lost him, and I now think I've worked my whole life. Maybe I'd like to paint and learn a language and do something. I like the teaching part of it, but not full-time, I don't think. I'm kind of, you work your whole life to do something for my soul. Not that this wasn't for my soul. I love the teaching. I don't like the administration part or the recruiting part or all of that, but I love the one-to-one with the kids. And there's a big future out there. I mean, it's amazing. I want to see what you're doing in 20 years, what's going to be on your little recording here, how far we've come.
Well, it's true, and you seem to take people at every level and from every walk of life, and you clearly have an interest. You feed your own soul, obviously. You work with the very young, you've worked with the partially trained, you work with folks who are perhaps towards the end of their life. You've mentioned wanting to learn a language or painting, and you've traveled so much. If you had to pick the top 3 things you want to do going forward, what are those going to be?
For the rest of my life? I'm going to live to be 100. I'm going to pass that on right now, just in case you're wondering. I want to paint. I've traveled a lot. I mean, there's a few things I'd like to see, but if I couldn't go anywhere else, that wouldn't be, what would I want to do? I just have to do something. I have to keep my mind going, and my soul is one thing, but stimulation, I think. I mean, I got very excited about this election. I think it was the most exciting thing ever. I don't care who you're for or who you were for, to see the momentum, to see the young people involved, to sit down. I must have watched every newscast for a solid year just to see the points of view. I'm a very curious person. There's so many things left to learn. I don't even know yet what's out there, and I can't sit down and play bridge the rest of my life. Not that I wouldn't want to play bridge. It's a good game too. But I think we're here for a purpose. I don't mean to be esoteric and say we're here to solve the world, but I don't think we're just here to take. I think we are here to contribute something, whether it's raising a child beautifully, whether it's painting a picture, whether it's the best school teacher, whether it's a nurse. We're not just here to take from the world, and maybe I don't know what I'm to do yet, but I hope I have several years left to discover that.
So to this point, what would you say is your proudest achievement?
I think taking care of my mama. When I now see, now that I've hit this age, when I now see how I kind of was controlling, I guess, to a certain extent, because I wanted my mother to be able to do as much as she could, as long as she could. And I'm an only child, and that's tough too, But the fact that I was able to take my mother places, that I was able to take good care of her when she got ill and have a caregiver with her with me, that I was able to have her see, even in a wheelchair, took her to Detroit to see me in a play. I think that I'm very proud of that. My mother and I were born the same day. And I'm very proud of that because I think that's something that we as children, if I had a husband and 4 or 5 children, I might not have been able to do all that. I think my biggest regret is I don't have children. It wasn't intentional because I think that life goes on and what's going on after me, I don't know. My cat loves me, but I don't know. I was talking about my tombstone. My mother and I are born the same day, and I just did a little tombstone with the 2 of us. And I laughed. It's kind of funny. What I did is kind of funny. And I thought, who's going to look at it? Nobody. Maybe you'll come by and take a look at my grave when I go. But I don't know. Life is good, We're lucky to be here. And Oprah had something on not very long ago about somebody who had written a book, and she said, when you wake up in the morning, what was the best thing about yesterday? And that's a good question. Because we kind of go, oh, I'm tired and it's raining and I got a Christmas shop and but then wake up before you get out of bed. I was thinking about yesterday, what did I do? I got all my presents wrapped. Now that doesn't sound like much, but I felt good because I got it done. And if you start the day, I'm a positive thinker anyway. I believe that, you write your own script, it's your story. Except for your health. We can do something about that, but not everything. But it's up to you to make, it's up to you to make your life. We all come from different circumstances, and what you really look at are people who've come from the real dregs of life are the ones that kind of succeed. They got to overcome it. My college roommate married her college sweetheart, and she had a family that nobody ever argued. And her husband yelled at her the first month of marriage, and this woman was destroyed. I said, Rolla, you grew up never hearing a discord in your house. Life is not like that. They have a wonderful marriage, been married 40 years. But it's interesting to see. More conflict makes you stronger. Coming through something makes you a better person. And it's how you do it here. My grandmother was a very positive person. You couldn't find an aspirin in her house or a match. You couldn't find either one. I'd say, Grandmother Wells, how did your marriage work? You were married a long time. What did you do to make it work? Takes 2 to fight. When your grandfather got mad, I'd go out and pick flowers. Don't do anything the first 6 months of marriage that you don't want to do the rest of your life. Because if you stop doing it, he thinks you don't care anymore. Give him a little something every 3 or 4 years so he thinks he's getting something special. I don't know. Aren't we lucky just to be alive and living in this country? Maybe not right now, we're all going broke, but other than that, I think we're pretty lucky.
And clearly lucky would be the aspiring actress who comes to you, who has quite a career, and says, if you could give me just one piece of advice that will help me find my way, what would it be?
Almost 2 things, I think. Be yourself. Forget all this who you think you should be. Be yourself. The soul comes through, whatever you do. And be prepared. One of my students, I said to him, Matt, he's now at the University of Sydney, and just graduated from college. And I said, he was 14 when he came to me. He said, I learned 2 things from you, Dawn. I said, what'd you learn? He said, I learned I could do it. And I learned that if something goes wrong, what's the backup? And I always think to myself, what's the worst that could happen? If this is the worst that could happen, prepare yourself for it. And it isn't about you. If you come into an audition prepared, it's not about you. You've done the best you can do. You aren't blonde, you aren't 5'10", you don't match the husband, whatever it is, there's something else happening. Only you can do what you do best. And if you concentrate on something else, your competition, I didn't lose 5 pounds, you're destroying your focus. And what I say to my students is get the outfit, get your lines learned, go 30 minutes ahead of time, be prepared so that all you have to do is create. Don't cloud yourself with all the other things. And that's not easy to say because we're all insecure when you go. Gosh, she's prettier than I am, or she has a lot more history and she's a bigger star than I am, or whatever goes through your mind when you're auditioning. But you are the only person that can do you. You have to believe in yourself, but you have to be trained. Don't go in because you have a pretty face. You got to be ready.
And that will bring me to, I'd love to play a little free word association with you.
Does that mean I just answer one word back?
Can be one word. It can be the first whole thought that comes to your head. I'm going to be mentioning TV shows, people I know you've worked with.
Oh, good. I like this.
Movies I know you've done, that sort of thing. And we'll see where it takes us.
Like a Rorschach. Verbal Rorschach.
Exactly. Okay, since there was a history with 4 times, 77 Sunset Strip.
First experience. First 77 Sunset Strip. Louis Quinn taught me to match. It was my first thing, taught me how to match. Louis Quinn.
Joseph Cotton and Wagon Train.
Working with a legend. Had to drive a buckboard, almost broke my neck. I told him I could do it, but I didn't know how.
Joey Bishop.
Oh gosh, it was the very first thing I did, and a very kind, very funny, very kind man. Good experience.
Bonanza.
2 wonderful experiences. Always wanted to play an Indian. Got to play an Indian. Got to work with John Rich, was a wonderful director. Had an experience with one of the leads of the show that was very temperamental, and was warned. Could I handle it? And it was a good experience for me, as long as I knew it wasn't personal. I could handle it, and that was a growing up experience for me. Not everybody wants the same unit in a production, and you have to kind of stand up for yourself, and I learned that there.
Hawaiian Eye.
Connie Stevens. She was so cute.
And if I say Connie Stevens?
I really looked up to her. She was really a working actress when I first came to Hollywood. I really looked up to her. Now, Surfside 6, Chad Everett. I have a picture of him holding me in a bathing suit. What a hunk.
Chad Everett.
A hunk. Over and over, I'll say it again.
Had to go there. Gilligan's Island.
Life-changing. Life-changing experience.
Hans Conried.
Brilliant actor. A joy to have been part of 2 episodes.
Vito Scotti.
Also a brilliant actor.
The Matchmaker episode of Gilligan's Island. Mrs. Howell tries to set up a romance between Gilligan and Marianne.
An improbable experience. My buddy, yes. My brother, yes. My mate, no. Professor, on the other hand, was something else.
Les Brown Jr.
Oh, great. Ran into him in an airplane not long ago. He was the Mosquitoes. And I was on an airplane, and he's all gray and silver-haired and adorable. And I said, don't I know you? He said, yes, I'm Les Brown Jr. Yeah. His dad was a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The Gilligan's Island episode, Postman Cometh.
Is that
They hear that Marianne's boyfriend in Kansas is getting married.
Herbert Higginbottom? Mm-hmm. Was this the special where I got married and got dumped? He ran off with my best friend?
Well, she thinks she's dying of a fatal illness.
Rumus aglumis.
Yeah.
Rumus aglumis, the poisonous mushrooms. Yeah, he was my boyfriend back home. Never saw him. Don't even have an image. Pimply-faced, farmer with bib overalls, probably. I don't know.
The episode V is for Vitamins, Patrick Denver.
Oh, Patrick. Well, it was Jack and the Beanstalk, though. Was that was the title, V for Vitamins? That was a wonderful experience because he played Gilligan as a little boy, and Alan played the giant. But Patrick spent the weekend with me, and he wouldn't get out of his clothes. He slept in his Gilligan hat and all of that. And I think I said to you earlier that Bob said to me, no, don't mind Dawn, just give Marianne lots of love, is what he said. And I talked to him and put him to bed. I was playing bridge, and about 11 o'clock he pitter-patters, he comes out to the table, and he said, I'm really scared. I'm scared to be in that room by myself. And I said, you are? He said, yeah. So we went back in, and I turned the light on, and I read to him for a few minutes, and I said, now, I'll leave the light on. He said, no, I guess I just have to learn to do this myself. He was 5. The next day, I took him out and said, you can have anything in this little toy store you want. Anything you want. Just go buy something you want. He picked out a little submarine about this big for like 18 cents. This is what will please me, he said. He's a remarkable young man. Bob was a remarkable father, so I have an affinity for Patrick.
Playing the old hag in Up at Bat.
Typecasting. The old hag comes natural. That was fun. I even had a wart on my face.
And since you mention it in the book, Marianne's cookbook.
Oh, I'm very proud of that. My mom was an incredible cook, and both my grandmothers. So there's about 350 recipes. About 300 of them are my family. About 10% are from the real Solomon Islands, and about 10% is from the cast. But there's stories in it, and my mother was 88 when we did it together, and we had about 600 recipes that we had to kind of cut down to that number. And I've only got about 75 books left, and I'm holding on to them. I don't know why, but yeah, it's very, very special.
Barbara Eden.
Oh, a joy. Barbara was one of the first people I ever met in Los Angeles. My very first job was a movie called The New Interns with Barbara Eden and Greg Morris and Stephanie Powers and Terry Savalas and Mickey Callan, and we were all nurses. And Barbara and I became very good friends. And when she found out her series sold when I was doing Gilligan's Island. We played bridge together a lot. And she was very good about telling me I was complaining about the short shorts and the bare midriff and all the body makeup you had to wear. And they put me in long Levi's a couple times, and I said, it's so much easier. And she said, don't you do that. Your trademark are those short shorts, and don't you do that. And she taught me how to put on false eyelashes. She's a very lovely woman, a very talented woman, and I don't socialize with a lot of showbiz people. You know, I don't know why, but I just have friends that are mostly not in the business, and she's a close friend. I like Barbara very much and respect her a great deal.
Not free word association, but is it true you told Barbara she was pregnant?
Yeah. She was having a hard time conceiving, and I had a pet sparrow that I had on the set, and we were playing bridge one night, and I let the sparrow out, and she kept saying, oh, I'm getting so dizzy, I'm getting so dizzy. I said, you're pregnant. She said, no, I'm not. And she called me 2 weeks later. She said, you're right, I'm pregnant. Yeah.
Was that a sign from the sparrow, or did you just somehow know?
Oh, I don't know. How would I know? Other than the fact that she was ill because something was spinning around, I guess. Or maybe I'm just wise. I think I'm more intelligent than you give me credit for.
A movie, Return to Boggy Creek.
Oh, my God. That was an experience. That really was an experience. It was in New Iberia, Louisiana, on location, in the bayous. And low budget, you know, so you weren't treated with royalty. And we were out in these boats out in the middle of whatever. And I remember one day, this is free association, I talk too much, but this father brought his son to visit me, and he had a pet rat on a leash. That was his pet, a rat. He lived in the bayou someplace, the Cajun area back there. I remember the water was brown. If you wanted to brush your teeth and you had a glass of water, it was brown because of the iron in the water. And I remember there were cockfights. And everybody could go to these cockfights, and I kept saying, are there really cockfights? I want to go see that. No, you can't go. I said, I really want to go see that. I'll probably walk out the first, nobody would take me. But all the crew would disappear to watch the cockfights, which I thought was it was a very interesting experience being in that area. And then the premiere of the movie was something, should be a movie in itself. There was one limousine, and the limousine would take somebody and drop them off the theater, and then they'd go around the block and pick up the next person and then drop them off the theater. And my mother came to see it. My mother slept through the whole thing. She saw the movie 17 times and slept through probably 14 of them. It was a wonderful experience. And my the little girl that played my daughter, Dana Plato, played my daughter. And we were being interviewed by some local station in Little Rock or someplace. I don't know, some tiny town, and it was a tiny television station, and they had us outside, and there was a Brico block wall, and the weatherman put us at this Brico block wall and put Dana here, and he was here, and I was here, and started to interview us. And Dana grabbed a hold of me. She said, I think I'm going to throw up. I think I'm going to throw up. So I said, I think maybe we could take a break. No, we're not going to take a break. So she just turned away, threw up, and he just continued to interview us. Never stopped, put the microphone in front of my face. It would be a little movie in itself, that premiere.
I don't know that I could ask you about any other film you've done where we would top that story.
Town That Dreaded Sundown.
Aha.
I had a good one. Some of the same crew. I did a movie called Winterhawk, and the producer called me and said, I'm having a trouble in this movie. I can't get a girl to walk and carry groceries. Would you come and just do this role for me? So he sent a plane for me and took me to Texarkana, Arkansas. And it was a true story. And it was a true story that there had been a murderer in the 40s that had terrorized this town, and they never caught the killer. And the woman I played was still alive, but she wouldn't talk to me. And it's location shooting again. And my character got shot in the mouth and didn't kill her, came out the back of her neck, but didn't kill her. She was on the telephone. And she escaped and crawled to a farmhouse, and with the killer chasing her through the cornfields. And the dog barking raised the people in the house to turn on their lights. So now it's 3 o'clock in the morning, and we're doing this shoot. And the director says to me, now be careful, don't break the corn stalks when you're crawling through, because I have to pay $1.50 for every corn stalk. So act your way through this cornfield, but don't break any corn stalks. And the farmhouse was there, and they had, everything is not animal trained like they are here. So they had this pit bull that belonged to one of the wranglers, who was in a stake with a chain around his neck in the grass. And the house is here, and he's between me and the house. And now they're all in 3/4 around this place, and Charlie says, the director says, if this dog gets out, we've all got guns, and if you can't control this dog, we're going to shoot him. We just want you to know that. Okay. So we start filming, and it's now 3:30 in the morning, and I'm crawling through the grass, and all of a sudden I see the dog straining on this post, and his lips curl. You know how you see the dogs with their lips curl? And I see the steak start to come out of the ground. So I put my face down and covered my back, thinking if he's going to chew me up, he's going to chew my back up. And guns go off. Everybody's trying to shoot this dog. Nobody gets the dog. Nobody hits the dog. Nobody hit anybody else either. God knows we finished the scene. And I walk into the Ramada Inn at 4:45 in the morning with blood coming, and my hair all matted. And I thought the guy behind the desk was going to have a stroke. He thought I was really hurt. He didn't realize I was shooting a movie. So the Town That Dreaded Sundown was a very good experience. Had nothing to do with the movie, but it was a good experience.
How do you feel about pit bulls?
Ooh. It just terrified me.
Going back to television, Vegas.
Oh, yeah. I was supposed to be a tennis player. Yeah. Why? What about it?
Do you play?
Oh, well, one word?
Yeah.
Hot. On a tennis court in Vegas, it was hot.
Fantasy Island.
One word. Still have the dress. I still have the dress I wore. Found it the other day.
The Dawn Wells collection, the
That
dress
was-
and the shorts.
The dress and the shorts going on eBay tomorrow.
Growing pains.
Well, that was fun because we talked about that before. I came in, I'm always fascinated that somebody cast me sexy. When I went and interviewed, I always think of Marianne as not being sexy, and they cast me as this sexy kind of PTA woman. But during the run, ABC came up to me and said, do you mind if we say you look a lot like Marianne? And they brought the Marianne thing into it. It was kind of funny.
Alf.
Oh, cool. Because we got to see how Alf did. Nobody knew how Alf went around on that stage. That was fun. Another thing that was fun about it, this is long before digital cameras, but it was Bob and Russell and I, and the Teamsters can get anything done. The first 15 minutes they had us pose for pictures. By noon, 8x10 colored pictures were all brought back for us to autograph. I don't know where the printer went, but you couldn't do that then. It was Teamsters got it done.
Baywatch.
That was a good experience too. But I remember there were 2 actors on that were going to quit the show. No, that were going to move and be called back to Hollywood to work. And I remember saying, you're not big enough to do that. They're not going to let you come back. I remember being sort of the mother superior where that was concerned, these 2 kids. It was fun. They had a black skipper, I think. I think they had a black skipper. It was cute. Takeoffs, they like to do the takeoffs,
Roseanne.
Oh, that was interesting, because that was on the very same set that Gilligan's Island was filmed, with the same cyc and the same sand. And we walked back, Bob and I walked back on that thing, and I went, whoa, it's like going back 20 years. And then I got to play Darlene, and I wore her boots. And I said, I don't know how you walk. They must weigh 20 pounds each shoe. That was cute. That was cute. And she played, Roseanne played Ginger, didn't she? I think, yeah. Yeah, that was very eerie, because that was our stage.
Working with Roseanne.
She was fine. She was fine. She gave everybody a hand, and she was fine. I didn't see any temper or any of that. I don't know whether it was the beginning or the end of all of that, but it was a very cohesive day.
Come in and get it done. The TV Land Awards.
Oh my God, I got to fly! And I have been asking Barry Greenberg, and I don't have a tape of the show. I have never seen it, and my TiVo didn't work. Do you have a tape? Please give me a tape. But we got to fly, and I've never been to Peter Pan before. To have that thing hanging around your waist, that was cool. I love that.
Flying with other TV stars.
Yeah.
That must have been interesting.
Well, that was the last one. We did get Gilligan's got an award a couple years ago, but this was this last one. What is this year? 2008, and flying through the harnesses and everything.
I think you, Jerry Mathers, Alison Ongren,
Who else?
Barry Williams.
Barry Williams, yeah. Gary Coleman. He was funny because he just kept going up and down. Yeah.
Now, we talked earlier about Hollywood Squares. We mentioned Password. I know you're a good game player. How'd you do on Pyramid?
I think I won. The Pyramid, was it the one with Donny Osmond?
Yeah.
I think I won. Did I? I always win, don't I? Did I lose?
No, I think you won.
I think I won.
Now, do you work with the Osmonds often?
No.
No.
No. I mean, I've worked with, basically I knew John Snyder better than I knew Marie. We just would go to the convention, and then I would go to Missouri, and they would do it out of LA or something, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
Okay, and here I want to ask two final questions and bring it all home. What are you working on right now?
Sitting here. I'm working on how long is this going to take? Well, I'm on my way to do a play. I'm doing a play in Toronto. I try to do a play a year for my soul. And I'm playing an Italian eccentric grandmother. I don't know how they cast me as that. I just don't see where that came from. But I'm looking forward to it. I like it. I like it a lot. And I leave in a couple of days.
Is there a dream stage role you'd like to do that maybe you haven't had a chance to yet?
God, there's so many things I'd like to do. I'd like to do something really heavy. Agnes of God, or I'm curious to see Doubt. I'm very curious to see the movie Doubt. I'd like to do something. I love comedy, but you kind of expect me to do that. I'd like to do something. Haven't seen the play yet, maybe. I don't know.
And finally, how would you like to be remembered?
Boy, that's a hard one, isn't it? Kind, good friend, happy, made a difference.
Thank you so much.
I had a good time. Did you have a good time?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Thank you. Have a good life.
Thanks, you too. Okay.
Okay.
So we spoke a little bit earlier, and you mentioned, how everything gets out very quickly and people get things done and all of that. Every celebrity has an experience of late, it seems, where they're taken advantage of because of their celebrity.
Yeah.
What would you like to set the record straight about Dawn Wells?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question, because people believe everything you read. We're now instant press, instant television tells you everything, whether it's true or not true. And I had a terrible experience up in Driggs, Idaho in 2007, and was supposedly arrested for drunk driving or drugs in the car and all of that. And none of it was true except inattentive driving. I was weaving in a company car with a new heater and didn't know how to turn it on. And it hit every press. It hit everything, saying that there was drugs in the car. Somebody had left. It was a company car. Somebody had left a 2 little roaches in a tin box in the car, which I didn't know that. The police said, "Can I search your car?" I said, "Sure." I wasn't drinking. It was none of it was true except inattentive driving. The person whose little roach it was in the car went to jail, and I was running a school and sponsored by people, and it was the worst experience of my life. It said I was in jail. It said I was in the slammer. It said I was drunk driving. The policeman is in jail. The sheriff is being looked at for illegal arrests. Lost the election in this tiny town of 1,100 people. And I really, truly believe it was because of who I was that it hit the press. But it didn't hit the press till the local law enforcement sent my picture to every newspaper, radio, and television station in the state of Idaho the very next morning. And it's not fair. You know, I came away saying, I don't even know if Britney Spears has 2 sons. We believe everything we read right now, and we're also in tune to gossip and the YouTube and all that kind of stuff, TMZ and all this kind of stuff that happens. It's very destructive. I'm embarrassed to go into a cleaner's. I'm afraid they're going to say, "Did you know she went to jail?" And I didn't. You know, and I didn't. And I don't know how you can't tell everybody. You can't get on the news every half hour and announce it. But boy, when something happened, it was announced. Everybody, every newscaster, everybody. And it really broke my heart, especially when I have spent all these years protecting Marianne's image, you know, which is, I live a good, clean life. And it even said that I picked up 3 hitchhikers. Duh! Who would pick up 1, let alone 3? So, I don't believe anything I hear now about anybody. You know, you really can't. And I know they all have to make a living. The paparazzis have to go all do that. But that was just totally unfair. The Idaho Potato Commission stood right behind me, and a lot of the people did too, because they knew it wasn't true. But the person in Iowa that sees me get on a plane doesn't know. Guess what she did? You know? So I just thank you for letting me set the record straight. That wasn't my dope. I wasn't drunk driving. All I did was weave a little bit for inattentive driving and didn't even have it on the record. Had to pay a fine for weaving.
Do you feel like that's the unintended result of celebrity these days?
What do you mean unintended?
Well, nobody becomes a public figure so that they can be the butt of gossip. And as long as there's been Hollywood, there have been gossip columnists and people helping with image or looking to actively hurt someone's image. How do you feel about it overall? I know you've had a bad experience.
I really think that we have put celebrity on such a pedestal. I think the average person wants to bring them down to your level, bring them down to the average person. Don't treat them special. Don't think they're any different than anybody else. So I think they want to burst the bubble. They want to find something negative to say, because you couldn't be that nice and that good and that whatever. The fact that it was Marianne was a bigger deal than if I'd have been on Lost or some other show. The fact that it was this goody two-shoes that they thought did something wrong. I think that it's unfortunate, but that's life. It all started with Gary Hart saying, "You don't believe me? Follow me." And they did. You know, it is. We're instant messages now everywhere. So you really have to, it'd really be hard to run for an office. Nobody has a perfect past. You know, I don't know.
Maybe you do.
Well, I certainly didn't do that. I certainly tried to live a very good life. I try very hard. Thank you.
Thank you.